This is Never Down, Never Out with T.R. Matson. This podcast is about discipline when motivation fades, resilience when things get hard, and showing up when quitting would be easier. No hype, no shortcuts, just the mindset required to build something real. One day at a time. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Never Down, Never Out. All right, episode 28. I know I'm building up to episode 30. I'm excited about it. Episode 30 in my mind was a huge milestone, I guess, in this, to build that momentum, right? We've heard in the past that if you could do something, you're trying to build a habit, 30 days is often what it takes. So when I had set this idea, this crazy notion up, almost a month ago on the Mover and Gonky show, and I said I was going to record one a day, I think it kind of hit home how much work that was going to be. But we're now nearing episode 30. So I'm hoping that if I could get over that hump and hit that milestone, that then the momentum will really kick in. So appreciate everybody tuning in, whether you're tuning in on a podcast, Spotify, iTunes, whatever that is, whichever platform, or if you're getting the added benefit of watching on YouTube, which really the big benefit there is you get to see when I need a haircut, and that my wardrobe consists of various colors of Never Down, Never Out workout shirts, which God bless my wife for still being interested in me when I dress like this all the time. So those are the real benefits there. But again, appreciate all the support. Appreciate you tuning in. Today's topic, I'm going to break it up into two parts because I think there's two distinct ways that it's important to look at this. So the topic today, episode 28, is the courage to start again. Now there's two ways to look at the courage to start again. Are we looking at the courage to start again after a failure, or the courage to start again when you've reached a comfort zone / success / already built some momentum? Those are two different things. Let's talk about the failure first. So it was probably 2017. I got this crazy notion that I'm going to write a book. And you know what? Because I'm a cocky pilot and think that everybody's so impressed by what I've done in my life, right? If you're listening on there, I was going to write an autobiography. And I got about a page into it and realized nobody really cares about what I did in my career. It's nothing special. I was very blessed to be given the opportunities I was given and given the mental fortitude to take the opportunities I was given. But there was nothing. I mean, I worked with hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this profession that did the exact same things. So the autobiography idea kind of died off very quickly, and it went into this fiction idea, military thriller. And from 2017 to 2020, 3 years, I maybe wrote enough words to cover 10% of what's in that book. Maybe. Probably not even. The idea of writing a book to me, excuse me, it's too early. The idea of writing a book to me felt like a failure. Like, it just felt like, I don't know what I'm doing with this. I just don't. This is dumb. What am I doing? I told a few people I was going to do it. Hopefully they would forget. I can move on, put it aside, and just put it in the pile of things that I didn't accomplish in my life. And then I remember vividly, I was an instructor at the airlines, teaching the Sims, and 2020, everybody knows what happened. And they basically locked down the training center. They sent us all home. And everybody thinks that where this story is going to go is it was a story about having free time, because we all had a lot more, most people had more free time during 2020. It's not that. I remember vividly, and I hope one day when he's older, my son listens to this episode, maybe I'll put a star next to it. I remember He was 3-ish. And we were up in his room. We were playing with Hot Wheels. And I just started thinking about what we were going through as a society in that moment, and how when he was in high school, he's going to be taught about it, and how he was going to come home and probably ask my wife and I what it was like, because he's too young. And for whatever reason, I wanted to have something tangible to show him that I accomplished during that time. Because no doubt, if history has taught us anything, when things are taught, they're often embellished. They're often over dramatized for the sake of teaching. And I wanted to show him that you could, if you put your mind to something, you can accomplish it. So that day in his room playing with his Hot Wheels, he probably still remembers which Hot Wheels that we were playing with. I, in my mind, said, I'm doing it. I'm writing a book. Because one day when he comes back and he goes, what was it like? I'm going to point to the bookshelf and go, if no matter how bad life is, no matter how low you are, no matter how crazy it seems, if you set your mind to something, you can accomplish it. So my goal at that day was to have the first draft done by the end of the year, which I did. And it was published subsequently the next year. It was extremely hard the next day after having that goal. It was extremely hard to sit down at my desk and open up a file that was marked 3 years prior. That was essentially whatever the electronic equivalent of dusty, and knock the dust off of it and start writing a story. It took real courage, in my opinion, because at that point, if I failed, I was going to know whose fault it was. And I just had to believe in myself and type. Now, let's go back to another time in my life where I needed the courage to start over. I'll give a quick background. By no means this is a boast. Again, everybody I worked with in my career in the Navy did the exact same things for the most part that I did. There's a few outliers of things that I might have done at different timing, but we were all the same. I had gotten to my E2 squadron. I had set the goal to become a landing signals officer in LSO. I wanted to be an aircraft commander. I wanted to get my master's degree on the side while I'm deploying. We had a particularly aggressive deployment cycle when I was at the Wallbangers. I often tell people in the 39 months that I was stationed in Point Mugu, California, I was only in Point Mugu less than 10 months because we were constantly on workups or deployed or whatever. So I set these goals to want to do this, and I had accomplished them. I had my list, and I was ticking them off, right? I made my qualifications in the plane and actually went to an instructor aircraft commander, which I think fewer E2 pilots do that. And I'm not saying I'm anything special for doing it. I was trying to pad my resume at that point because I wanted to transition to fighters. But I had done that because it was something that I knew would look good. Getting my master's degree on the side, that had been done. I was a landing signals officer, LSO. I was actually a team lead. So I'd gotten all the qualifications I could possibly get in my time in that squadron. And I wanted to fly fighters. Now, if anybody's familiar with at least aviation in the military, there's a path, and they show it to you early on what you should do and what windows you should go through and how you make commanding officer and then further and all those things. And for all intents and purposes, everybody around me, where I was at that moment, a level 4 qualification instructor, aircraft commander in the E2, team lead, LSO, with all my quals, had my master's degree, did my leadership roles in the squadron, had good fitness reports, all those things. I was perfectly on that line. The smart play would have been to take orders to VAW 120 in Norfolk, be an instructor in the E2, possibly go on to be an LSO for a CAG, for a commander of the air group. That's the next level. And then potentially on to being a commanding officer. That was the path that I should have, if the Navy asked or looked at, should have stayed on. But as I've talked before, I didn't want to be an old man and wonder what if. Could I have flown fighters? I remember vividly, we were on deployment, I was walking down the passageway in the Nimitz to go up to the LSO platform. And coming the other way was my CAG. Now, this is a Navy captain. He's in charge of our whole air wing. Fantastic leader, one of the top 3 probably I've dealt with in my career, and still has shaped me to who I am. He asked me, he goes, "Hey, Wombat, have you ever thought about flying fighters?" Now, anybody who knows my personality, I immediately looked at this Navy captain. I'm a lieutenant, so he's significantly higher ranking than I am. And I looked at him and I was like, "Nah, sir." I'm like, once you've flown the E2, like, that's the pinnacle. And I wasn't knocking the E2. I was just trying to be funny. And he goes, "Oh, okay, no problem." And he turns and walks away. And I was like, whoa, sir, what's up? And he goes, "Come talk to me later." Okay. So I meet him in his stateroom in his office, and we talk, and there's going to be what they call a transition board to switch from various communities to fly fighters, VFA community. And he thought I'd be a good candidate for it, but he wanted to be very honest with me about the pros and cons. I mean, the pros are pretty obvious, right? You get to go fly around in a jet if that's the thing you want to do. Fly fighters, push the envelope, coolest sports car in the world, all the things that are not hard to grasp. The con was totally taking myself off a normal career path in the Navy, putting myself through far more sea time than I likely would get in the near future. Because essentially, if you don't understand, in the Navy, they try, now it's varied over the years, but they try to swap you from a sea tour to short tour to sea tour to short tour to give you a break. And I was coming off a particularly aggressive sea tour with a lot of time away from home. And if I had picked up the transition to fly Hornets, I would go through that training and then right back out to sea, as opposed to doing, say, 3-year orders as an instructor on a shore billet. So that's a lot, right? But he was very honest with me about it. And, he said, I would endorse you if this is something you want to do. And I'm pretty sure Nasty Manazar, the commanding officer of the ship, of the Nimitz, would also endorse you. He'd like to talk to you about it. Well, hell, now I got 2 Navy captains that are both fighter pilots. And when I say fighter pilots, I mean like fighter pilots, like F-14s, the old school guys with the mustaches, and what Hollywood has made us all believe a fighter pilot is. And both are in a career that is amazing. I mean, our CAG was the skipper of Top Gun, actual, like the school prior to becoming our CAG. So, these are 2 bigwigs that are essentially telling me like, hey, we'll endorse you if you want to do it. And that sounds like it doesn't take a whole lot of courage to make that decision, right? I've wanted to be a fighter pilot, in some sense, since I saw the Blue Angels on my dad's boat when I was 7 years old, whatever it was. And now here I am with an opportunity. You're like, yeah, that takes a lot of courage, really? Well, it does, because looking back on it, I had built a lot of momentum, and I enjoyed the E2. The E2 is my first love. I love that I got to fly fighters, but the E2, there's a reason my first book was about the E2. I love that plane. I love the community. I love everything about the Hawkeye. So to give that up, to chase this, takes, because there's two sides of it. On the one hand, what if I apply for the transition board, even with all their endorsements, and they say no? Wow. I was already told once indirectly in flight school that I couldn't fly fighters, right? Because that was my first choice and I got the E2, right? So I was already kind of like, nah, you're not quite there. So to have it happen again is tough, right? But then, what if I got it and failed? What if I was on this nice, cushy path, tons of traction, going down that road, and I decide to take the off-ramp and I fail? So it does take courage to step out of your comfort zone, to start over. And I saw that in two very distinct parts of my career. Here's my take on courage to start over. We are not, in my opinion, meant to be on this planet to live a cushy, comfortable existence. We are here to push our boundaries. We are here to work hard to try to reach the limits of our capacity. And if we're not doing that, then we're wasting our time here. In whatever facet that is that applies to your life. It doesn't have to be flying. I just use that as an example. So as you look at yourself, are you in a situation where you've failed and it's hard to get back up? Or are you in a situation where you've actually been successful and comfortable and it's hard to put yourself back out there and get out of your comfort zone? Either way, building up the courage to go for it is the only way to live. It's the only way to exceed. It's the only way that when the alarm clock goes off or you beat the alarm clock, you get out of bed with purpose. And if we're not working on our purpose in life, why are we here? If we're not trying to better our environment and better ourselves and better those around us, what's the point? That's a miserable existence, in my opinion. So today, as you sit here and you listen to this or watch this, you're never going to feel ready. You're never going to feel like you're prepared. But you have to build that courage to just jump anyway, because that's where the greatest ride comes from. So today, I tell you, if you're on that cusp, trying to make that decision, go for it. Go all in and see what happens. Until we talk soon, never down, never out. If this episode helped you, don't just listen, apply it. Progress is built in what you do after the message ends. Remember, never down, never out. I'll see you tomorrow.